For our Kingdom Values video this week, I want us to look at two stories from the Bible about the difference between belonging and fitting in. Before we do that, just to remind those of you who were there Sunday, and for those who weren't, we had a definition describing the difference between belonging and fitting in. That fitting in is about assessing a situation and working out who you need to become in order to be accepted. Whereas belonging doesn't require us to change who we are, but requires us to be who we really are. And it's worth bearing that in mind as we look at these two stories from Scripture, the first of which is an absolute favourite, the story of the prodigal son from Luke 15. I won't go into the details of the story because we know the story well. But what I want us to look at is that moment that the son decides to go home to his father. He just makes that decision that he can't live the way he's been living and he needs to go back. And what he does is he says in that moment, I will go back and offer myself as a servant. What he's essentially saying is, I will do whatever it has to take for me to fit in back at home, to be accepted by my family, by the people in the home. I'll have to change my status. I can't be a son anymore. I'll just go back and offer myself as a servant or as a slave. But what he finds as he's walking up that path is the complete opposite of fitting him. What he finds is full acceptance. He is fully loved, he's fully welcomed, and he belongs. He belongs in that home, and that's shown by everything that the Father gives him. He gives him shoes to say, you no longer need to walk barefoot, you are welcome here. He gives him a robe, which is a sign of royalty and status, to say that you belong here. And then he gives him the ring, the family signet ring that's used for signing all the checks and sealing everything, to say that you belong in this family, as you always have done. It's a wonderful example of the difference between belonging and fitting in. The son expects to have to fit in, but what he finds is that he belongs. The second story is from Acts chapter 9, and it's a story of Paul. Now, Paul, we know, has a difficult past. When he was known as Saul, he was the persecutor of Christians, and as a result, many Christians were very suspicious of him when he had that conversion experience and began proclaiming about Jesus. And he had a few days where he was following the disciples around, joining in with a little bit about what they were doing. And then he had a desire to become one of those disciples, to be part of the call. And he makes that request, and all of the disciples reject him. They know about his past, that causes perhaps fear, perhaps concern, whatever it is, but they want him to prove himself for a little bit longer before he can be welcomed in. So what they're asking him to do, essentially, is to fit in, to be more like them, to show that he has really, really changed. And that's true of all of the disciples except for one, Barnabas. Barnabas has seen Paul in action, has seen Paul do incredible things and teach incredible things. He's seen that a change has taken place. And what he does is he convinces the disciples that Paul belongs with them. And it's a wonderful picture, again, of belonging, shown by Barnabas, but not necessarily by the other disciples in that moment. And then just look at the fruits of what happened because of one person helping Paul to know he belongs. So why share these stories? What can we learn from these stories in this particular week as we reflect on belonging and fitting in? Well, first, the story of the prodigal son. Do you believe, and I mean truly believe in your heart of hearts, do you know that you belong? That you belong to the Father? That you belong in the home that he has for you, that you belong in relationship with him? Do you truly believe that your belonging is unconditional, conditional only really on turning to go home, choosing to walk towards Jesus? Or are you like the older son who is still feeling like you have to strive in order to have your place, that you have to fit in, you have to do everything you can to fit in to church or to life with God or whatever it may be? Or do you believe, really believe, that you belong? Because he's made it possible through Jesus for you to belong to him. And then secondly, the story of Paul and Barnabas. Is there anyone that needs you as their Barnabas? Are there people you know who are on the fringes or on the edges of something? Maybe they're rejected by other people. Maybe they're difficult to relate to. Maybe they're people who other people find a bit of a struggle. But could you be their Barnabas? Could you be the person who's going to come alongside them and say, you know what, where other people don't welcome you, I will. I will say that you belong. Maybe there's people who are waiting for an invitation to church, but they just feel like they'd have to fit in, and you could be the person that could tell them, actually, no, you don't have to fit in, just come because you belong here. Maybe even there's people in your family you need to reach out to, people who have been outcast perhaps by others, maybe some reconciliation that needs to take place. I don't know the situations, but is there anyone who needs you to be their Barnabas this week? Regardless of any of those things, our heart and our desire is that you know that you belong, that you are welcomed as you are, that you are fully seen, fully known, and fully loved, primarily by God and hopefully by those who know Him and love Him.